Hi. Welcome to Someone Else's Movie, the original podcast where an actor, writer, director, or nebulous industry figure gives a little love to a movie they didn't make. I'm Norm Wilner, senior film writer for Now Magazine, and this is the other thing I do. My guest this week is Georgina Reilly, an actor you may know from Bruce McDonald's Pontypool and This Movie Is Broken, or from the short-lived but really good television series The LA Complex, or that one episode of Blindspot, or probably as Dr. Emily Grace on the CBC's long-running Murdoch Mysteries. She also stars opposite her real-life husband Mark O'Brien in Adriana Magg's Goalie, which arrives on iTunes Canada this Friday, June 7th. Georgina wanted to talk about The Sound of Music, Robert Wise's gargantuan 1965 adaptation of the Rodgers and Hammerstein musical, starring Julie Andrews as an Austrian nun who leaves her convent in Salzburg to become the governess to the 7 children of a widowed military officer, played by Christopher Plummer, just as Hitler's Germany prepares to occupy their blissful nation. Nominated for 10 Oscars, the film won 5. The big ones: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Film Editing, Best Sound, and Best Adapted Score. In the ensuing decades, it's gotten kind of a bad rap, with people dismissing it as a cheesy crowd pleaser, while actively ignoring the things it does really, really well. So, we're here to rehabilitate it. This is Someone Else's Movie.
I was probably like 8 or 9, and I grew up loving musicals anyway. My family is all in the music industry, and so it was a big thing in our house anyway, and so I used to just watch a lot of musicals, and then that one came up, and then I got the big book, and I used to sing it at like recitals and different things like that. So that would probably be, the first time, and I just loved it. I loved all the kids in the row and I don't know, just, really beautiful movie.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, we can talk about the uncoolness of it, which I think is probably because it's now an institution somehow. Like, it's become this big, I mean, it's a gargantuan production. It is very stagey while still being very cinematic. It's a weird double act that Robert Wise was doing, where he found ways to open it up. Just the helicopter shot at the beginning, and then using scope to add to the scale of it, to expand the compositions, and all the kids are in the frame because the frame can accommodate that many children. But it's also incredibly stagey. And I find that fascinating, that you're watching this argument constantly back and forth. The film is fighting to be a film, but it knows that all the drama is in the people. The scale is irrelevant, ultimately. You're watching the family story, and that, by definition, is very, very small and intimate. So it's just constantly giving you all of this space and then saying, but actually what's more important are the 3 people here in this spot. Yeah, no, it's true, because it really rides, I think it rides that line really well, that it doesn't get too, I mean, I know we just said The Sound of Mucus, it doesn't get too gooey. I think Christopher Plummer handles that gooiness really well. I think he's wonderful in it. Yeah. And I actually think she is too, because there's moments where I think it's going to get cheesy, and then she just pulls it back enough that I'm like, no, this is still real. I can still have this as a real person. I mean, she's very perfect, but then not perfect, but that's the style of it. But I think, but then the second half of the movie, or the last third of it it's pretty heavy. Like, I remember being young and being sort of, I knew about World War II, and that seemed it gave me weird feelings about it. I was like, that would be so scary. I can't believe people used to be treated like that, or that would happen. And then when the guy comes in and and they're leaving and stuff. I always find it funny, though, that they never actually left over a mountain, because they would have just ended up right in Hitler's. Yeah. It just obviously was more cinematic to do it that way. They just got on a train. Dramatic license. What yes, exactly. We have these big cameras. We might as well point them at the sky.
Yeah. Yeah. I also found it interesting that opening shot, she kept getting blown over by the jets, the downwind, from the helicopter.
It's incredible that no one was hurt, honestly. Yeah. It's just such a massive thing to orchestrate, and then we have to, the camera is swooping directly
down,
at her. And now, I've been watching all of these documentaries these last few weeks with drone shots, and it's just like, you could do that for nothing now. It would be safe. And probably even charming. Someone will figure out a way to do it, but these big movies with huge backdrops, I just keep thinking, and we were just talking about Lawrence of Arabia a second ago, these movies were made before CG. It's all there. Everything you
Yeah.
see is happening. Maybe there's a matte painting or two, but people in the snow are in the snow. You know, like hordes of soldiers marching are actually physically present.
Yeah, I prefer that as an actor, actually.
would
Like, the
think.
helicopter thing would be a lot. I know she said she got tired and it was a lot of work, but at least I don't know, you're, like, working for something, and it's the way... I don't know, sometimes... I don't know how I would do with green screen
Yeah.
type work. I think there's something cool about that you create everything from your imagination in that scenario, but I guess I like the whole... I love walking onto sets. I do actually miss, because I love Singing in the Rain too, and I love a lot of the old I do miss working on those sets that still look like sets, like Rear Window. I
Yeah.
love that set, and you just know it's a set, and everyone's fine with it, and there's something just really, I guess it's like the old Hollywood magicalness of that, whereas everything now is either green screen for those big things or is pretty real and
Yeah.
well done.
Authenticity is, like, it's great when you need it,
Mm-hmm.
but it can only go so far. And I think as well, you know, you're dealing with a movie here with Nazis. You don't want it to be too real. You don't want to
No,
push
too
too
heavy.
far into acknowledging what was really going on. I mean, they sort of pull back a little bit. The captain is ambivalent about the party or completely against it at one point or another. And then you've got Rolf, who sort of embodies...
That's so sad, and I didn't understand that as a kid.
I was going to
The
ask,
brainwashing thing.
because it's a love story, sort of,
Yeah.
between Rolf and Liesel, but she loses him to the party. She loses
Yeah.
him to everything.
That was always a weird, and that was what I meant as a kid. I had these weird reactions that couldn't fully understand. It made me feel a little weird. I was like, what? I don't. He's just now. And then you would learn, and then in school, obviously, we'd learn about what happened. And that movie then had a different. I was like, oh, that's pretty like scary at the end. And I'm like, did they get out? And obviously, I researched after, and she never loved him. She never actually loved the
real
captain
Liesel.
in real.
Maria.
Maria didn't actually. She like loved the kid so much that she learned like she liked him and stuff, but it
Right.
was never.
I did
Yeah.
not know that, and that is creepy.
And then she did obviously I think it was just at the time like she fell in love with the children and looked after them so much, and then it just seemed like a convenient. And then obviously and apparently she was the tough one and he was actually the softie in real life.
Well,
So-
I mean, nuns are mean.
Yeah, yeah.
That is-
There's a toughness there for sure.
Yeah, that is a weird place again. Like, the movie is filled with these strange things that we are simply told to accept, which is that, it's okay to be the hot nun.
Yeah.
Like, she's a problem. Like, there's a whole song about it. She's a problem. But she's a terrible nun.
Yeah.
She's not a disciplinarian. She's not inclined towards a neutral presence.
Yeah.
She involves herself in everything. She doesn't like the whole "let God handle things." Defer to the teachings. She doesn't.
She's very impulsive and
Yeah.
driven by her emotions, and just sort of doesn't have that control on herself that would be expected.
It feels like there's a scene missing where we get a sense of her history. Like,
Yeah.
now she would have been like a former Tomb Raider or something. There'd be some other new way to just say, oh, well, her time in the army has traumatized her so much that the convent was the only thing available to her.
Yeah, exactly.
She's seen some shit. But
Yeah.
it's such, you have Julie Andrews, so right away it's like, no, it's Julie Andrews. She's a nun, that's all. She wants to be. And she's
I guess I think they do a good job of like, she is just a very good heart and wanted to, I guess, do the right thing, quote unquote, like in life, I suppose.
Yeah.
But she's just not. She's too gregarious for it, I guess.
Yeah.
And I love how the Mother Superior is just like, this is just what, like, she just forgives her for everything and is like, you should just do that. But then apparently in real life, she was like, this is God wants you to marry this man. That's what he wants you to do. So
Yeah.
she was like, okay, well,
This is the duty.
this is the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the duty in life now.
It's such a strange... Again, like, everything about it... And maybe that's it. You enjoy it in the moment, and the minute it's over, you're like, wait, hang on a second. That was
Yeah, it's interesting.
kind of weird. A little
Yeah.
twisted. But... And the disciplinarian aspect of it. And you're right, Plummer's great. I really wanted to... I've interviewed him once, and it was incredibly awkward. Because
Really?
he's not a warm...
Fuzzy guy.
Well, he's not interested in... how can I put this? I don't mean to insult him. It was for the Gilliam film, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he comes in expecting everyone to bring things up that he doesn't want to talk about. And I don't know what those things are, but his armor is way up.
Yeah, I understand. He's been around so long, I guess.
Yeah, and he wasn't hostile, but he was impenetrable.
Right.
And he didn't want to talk about... I mean, there are things about Parnassus that are interesting in that film, and questions about his relationship to the screen and how they handled the emotional stuff about a man who never gives anything away, and he's very rigid, and it brings up a natural comparison to the captain, because Von Trapp is very, very rigid and austere, although Plummer plays him with so much humanity and wit. Like, he's smiling on the inside in this movie.
Yeah. And
the idea that I think he has just tired of talking about it. It was a job, and it became a sensation, and he can never get away from it. It will be one of the first things in his obituary, right? I mean, star the Oscar-winning...
He was so good. Like, that scene where they get in the fight when they fall out of the boat, and then Julie Andrews is, like, telling him that he needs to be a better parent before the singing. He sells a moment that can be so cheesy when it's like, what's that singing? And she's like, it's the children, And his transition from the fight and all that, and the captain, when he calls her captain by accident and then walks in... I just find that such an amazing... That's where I'm like, I know that it's... I know, but that's the line that he does that's so excellent. I love his character in it. Because it's not... He's real. To me, he's like a dad who he has all these kids, and he was a captain. He doesn't have a wife. And in that time period, that was the person that's who took care of the kids.
Yeah. And you completely believe that he would... through Plummer's performance, you completely believe that he would revert to military discipline, that he would fall back on the only thing he knows, right? Yeah. Which is incredibly wrong and insulting, and, what is it now, 60 years later, you just can't do that in a movie for 55 and expect people to buy it, but it does work for him. Like, you believe it because he doesn't condescend to the performance, he's not winking, the character is capable of winking on the inside, but Plummer's not making fun of the performance, and I don't know, it's such a strange story for him, because he's simultaneously an incredibly serious and respectable interpreter when he's performing, and he's a massive ham when he wants to be, and both of those sides of him are fun, and this is mostly the serious performance because he has to be the straight man, but he does stuff, and he shows layers. The scenes, the political stuff is really surprisingly, man has a spine of steel. He refuses to break, and loses everything, potentially, or risks everything, and then ends up losing his home and all of it. Now, if you follow Von Trapp's story through this movie, it's a tragedy. With a little redemption at the end. But it was remarkable looking back at it and thinking, I did, I saw it when I was a kid. I know I've seen it in a theater at least once as a child, because I remember just being overwhelmed by it. Probably at the Eglinton of blessed memory. And I've seen it a couple of times since, and it's always with this sort of cringing expectation that it's going to disappoint me, but it is so completely what it is. And it's kind of hard to knock it.
It's so beautifully shot too, like the colors in it, like, and the way everyone I'd love to be in something that looks like that. Because everything now is not everything, but a lot of things are very real, and with HD, it's like picking up everything. I just love how everyone just looks so perfect, and it's just so beautiful, and it's just one of those. And my kid loves it. I think it's also seeing it again through her, because she just loves the songs mostly, but it's teaching her to sing. That song, I mean, it's in my head way too much, but that 6 minutes saves me some days of do re mi. It goes on so long, but she's learning notes. It's actually educational in that way for her, rather than something that just makes her kind of like stimulated. She's actually contributes to it when she's watching it. So it's hard to find stuff for your kids, because I don't love doing a lot of TV and stuff. So finding something that, I don't know, entertains her in a way that she learns something as well is important. Yeah.
So how does she... does she sit through the whole thing? You just find pieces of it?
Yeah. I don't want to do it that's a long... We never really get to the Nazi part. That part is not really in there. We normally do, because the songs kind of end after that. She gets bored in Something Good, the love song. She's like, nah, I don't care about that.
Too slow.
Loves do re mi, loves the good night one. That's how we do like bedtime. She understands, like saying, she waves to go to bed now. she just loves the do re mi, and if I sing that, like if we're out and that just calms her, I don't know, she just, yeah, mainly the first part of the movie, and I Have Confidence she enjoys, and the whistling and stuff, but yeah, once there's a lot of talking, obviously she's like, whatever. But then also she doesn't mind if The Office is on. I've seen her laugh at Dwight, and I'm like, she's 16 months, so I don't know if it's like she just picks up on. It's interesting to watch her watch it.
Yeah, Rainn Wilson does look funny. I mean, in that show, he's designed to be like the big beetle brow.
So brilliant in that.
I wonder if it's his voice is kind of an octave higher than everybody else's, a little bit.
Yeah, because the humor's so still in that for a kid, I'm
yeah,
like...
a 16-month-old is not going to pick up on reaction shots.
Yeah, like, but she'll watch it. She just likes watching the people do stuff. They don't really do anything, so I don't know, but yeah.
Soothing.
Yeah,
A
exactly.
friend of mine is losing his daughter to the tyranny of Paw Patrol and Peppa Pig. That's the world now that he lives in.
Yeah, we have a friend who's their daughter's getting a British accent from Peppa Pig for certain things.
Okay,
They'll say it, yeah.
That's sort of great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I grew up in England, so I'd be happy with that. But, yeah. There's not a lot... I don't love a lot of the too much animation-y stuff.
Yeah.
You know? She gets a bit like... Ugh. I tried Aladdin, the original.
Oh, the Disney?
Yeah, and she just wasn't really into it the same. So...
I wonder what... Yeah, I wonder what you could use... What else you can use in Sound of Music as an educational tool, and what else might be there. It's kind of weird that no one has tried to remake it either. Maybe it's because the...
They did do the live show.
one, yeah.
Carrie Underwood played her.
Yeah. Did you watch it?
Those are interesting. I think I watched part of it. Yeah. I thought Lady Gaga's Oscar performance of just the songs in The Sound of Music, she did that a few years ago.
Oh, that's right, the medley.
Incredible. Yeah. I thought she did a really good job. I feel so sad that Julie Andrews can't sing anymore.
I know. I remember that moment in... Is it the second Princess Diaries where she does sing, and they did a little digital thing to make it consistent, and it's fine because it's Julie Andrews singing, and there is never going to be a reason to not enjoy that. But yeah, it's...
Well, just so tragic for her. Like, she's such a beautiful voice, and then, yeah, the surgery just
ruined.
Yeah, because you can't cut those things out, nodules. Like, it's the
timbre, right? It creates some kind of...
Well, you have like a bump, and then if you have your vocal cord, if you get the vocal cord, if you get just the bump, that's one thing. But if you cut the vocal cord, you're cutting the whole...
Compromising
it, yeah. A guitar string. You're just... I know Adele had the same surgery, and hers went fine.
I didn't know that.
But, yeah, this is so scary for somebody that's their...
Yeah, well, I mean, it must be terrifying.
Yeah.
There was an attempt after Roger Ebert lost his voice to his the surgery, the post-surgical complications. There was an attempt to reconstruct a digital version of it through his commentary tracks, because he'd spoken so much on the record in high quality that people thought they might be able to do some sort of a digital speech box for him based on his own voice. It didn't work.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things that kind of gave everybody hope for a minute that it might work, and then you think about, well, Julie Andrews could... There's probably enough pitch correction in the world that you could fake it now, but...
It doesn't have the same quality to it, though.
And you wouldn't want it.
And if you're a live singer, that sucks. And also, auto-tune now and all that stuff is just the worst sound. Yeah. It's because it all sounds the same. It just blends it so that you can't hear it. And then you lose the quality of someone's voice. Yeah. That's why I did enjoy A Star Is Born, just because Lady Gaga's voice is so... Don't agree with the whole of it. That's a different movie. But
we can talk about that too if you want to. I was going to say, though, the thing that Andrews brings in The Sound of Music is that there are not many film actors who can sing in character the way she can. Like Anna Kendrick can do it.
Anna Kendrick can do it.
And I think that's about it. Those are the two that I can think of.
I guess
Liza Minnelli actually in Cabaret.
Judy Garland's wasn't like...
Yeah, but Garland was always Garland.
That's true.
The persona came through.
And I guess that's the same for Gene Kelly, but he's always Gene Kelly. Like, it's the same. I see what you're saying.
That quality.
Anne Hathaway in Les Mis was pretty exceptional in that one scene. Like, she deserved the Oscar for that, for sure. I thought that was amazing. And Hugh Jackman really, he works hard. Like, such a performer. But yeah, Julie Andrews, those are the moments where I'm like, huh. Like in Raindrops on Rose, in Favorite Things, there's these like, this is what I'm saying again, it's about to get cheesy, and then she pulls it off in a way that I believe when she's like looking at the kids like, what do I do with them, and you think it's gonna be really acty, and actually blend she just does it so well.
No, it's a naturalistic musical in a weird way, because it's so starchy and composed visually, but then you have this strange energy bouncing back and forth between the leads, and then the kids are just naturally chaotic, except when they're standing absolutely still, and then it's scary.
I don't like the part, there's only one part that sounds me that I don't like, is when they're like, Maria came back from the Abbey, or whatever, when she returns, and they're standing there sort of smiling in this weird, or when they look at their father.
They'll be good from now on.
Or when he comes in singing, and all the kids are like, oh my gosh, our father's singing.
That's right.
And then they kind of stare at him, and then they go, ooh, they like harmonize him. Those are the only two moments where I'm like, like, I don't, like, love that.
Yeah.
But
I wonder if the harmony moment was part of the stage show. It feels like it couldn't be, right? Because you'd need the close-ups. You'd need to see the kids responding to it.
Yeah.
But I could also imagine that working on stage if you just sort of caught the audience by surprise and everybody starts...
Yeah, that could work on stage, yeah.
It's one of those puzzling things where I think I know what this movie is, and then it just keeps refusing to conform.
Yeah.
Because, the last third is pretty dark.
Yeah, it's really scary.
It doesn't pull punches.
Yeah.
And for a G-rated, mass-produced, big entertainment that was in theaters all over the world for years, it just never went away. It was one of those big... It was on ABC for Easter every year or something? No, Easter was the Ten Commandments, so Sound of Music would have been Christmas or Thanksgiving. It was
I
the
think
thing
so.
that they
Well, I
plugged
posted a picture of it on Instagram, being like showing Penelope one of the classics, and so many people were like, I love it, I love this movie, like... And I didn't know. I was like, maybe people will be like, oh, that same... But no, a lot of people...
It's kind of irony-proof.
Yeah.
Like, it really refuses... And I don't know. Someday I hope there is a reclamation of it. Because, I mean, Robert Wise, the guy, he's a real filmmaker.
Yeah.
He made... Well, I mean, he worked on Citizen Kane. He made The Day the Earth Stood Still. He made Star Trek The Motion Picture. We don't talk about that. But there's... Yeah. It's not... Actually, you know what? The new Star is Born is a perfect example. It's the kind of film that is a big studio film that somehow manages to be more than a commercial product that was just slapped together for the big studio. And to see people embrace Green Book instead, like that was, they're both films from major studios. They're both kind of generic premises that are then elevated by the performances. And in the case of A Star is Born, they're elevated by the direction and the focus on the human moments instead of the big story. But Sound of Music is sort of their gold standard for this sort of thing, because it's an adaptation of something from another form entirely, with real performances and genuine commitment that is still somehow dismissed as just silly. Yeah. And yeah, I'm really glad you picked it, because it's one of those things that needs constant defending now.
Yeah, the amount of work, like, to pull that off, like... And what you were saying about auto-tune, like, so many people don't sing anymore in movies. Or they're like... Or when... Well, they do, but it's... And that's why I did appreciate, like, having Lady Gaga play that role. Because at first, I hadn't seen it. I was behind seeing it because I have a kid, and I just hadn't gotten around to it. And everyone was like, oh my god. Well, it was kind of both ends of the spectrum. So I sat down and watched it, and I was like, and at first I was like, is it gonna be hard, because I've obviously watched Lady Gaga's stuff and I follow her music, and I actually was like, no, you need someone who you believe is that amazing from the beginning to be able to be that famous that quickly. And I was thinking of other actors who can sing, but I just wouldn't have the same belief in it that she could have been that thing so quickly as Lady Gaga, because she is an incredible musician. So, but to pull that off and do it well, like, everybody sings or whatever, like, actors, but to really sing, and she's just so good, and the kids are good, and actually Christopher Plummer, I love Edelweiss. It's a really...
Yeah, he
does it well. He
sells it, right? Like, it's not just a recitation. He's singing and feeling, and we understand what it means and who he is because of it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's, and it's this kind of, this mild resentment that the real Plummer has now about being identified with this film, but
I was really surprised.
I don't understand it. I mean, I guess if it was, because it was a sensation and it was a huge deal, and I'm sure for years he was bothered by it when he just wanted to be on stage at Stratford and doing the serious, the real work. And maybe that's it, you just can't reconcile yourself to the one little throwaway job you did for either money or prestige, or just because your agent knew you could spare the time and that it would help, that becomes the thing that you can never get away from.
Well, that's why residuals are so important.
Yeah, sure.
You know, because you think of sitcom actors, you get and not that you can go and do other stuff, but like, you know, you think of Kramer.
Yeah, no,
like that is such a distinct character for that long, and I know Mark and I have talked about it, like, well, you know, you get because that sometimes you can't work after that because everyone's just like, you're that thing. Mm-hmm. I don't think that did that to Christopher Plummer. I just saw an excellent actor. It wasn't like a defined crazy role. It was just, but I see it was probably so big, and if he's a guy who just wants to do the work, that's a conflict that everybody. I think some people really just want to do the big thing, but then they really want to do like the small, more like the higher brow, like indie respected thing. But I still think I'd respect someone who is in something like, takes a lot of work. I mean, they shot it was interesting too. They said, the boy who played Friedrich grew 6 inches over the 6 months. So they had to he wore lifts for the first part, and then Liesel had to stand on a box so that the row of kids still. I always find those kind of anecdotes kind of just, I don't know, interesting.
No, I mean, movie production, I think now we're much more, hopefully we're much more responsible when we do these things, but the run and gun aspect of even the big productions in the 60s, where it's just like you have a sound stage and you have unlimited money, but you still only have so much time.
Yeah.
Creates, it ends up with you dive bombing Julie Andrews in a helicopter on the top of a hill because somebody thought it was a good idea.
Yeah.
And, you know, hopefully, now there's no way that they would put someone in that kind of danger. But I wonder if they even understood that it was dangerous, other than the wind.
They're like, we just got to get the shot.
Yeah.
Like, this is the shot. This is the opening of the movie, and it's incredible. We can't not have it.
Yeah. And it's true. It's iconic. Like, now it is probably the first thing most people think about when you hear The Sound of Music. You hear her sing the title against that backdrop, and it is stunning.
Yeah.
But watching it now, it's amazing that it goes on as long as it does, and that it's like the entr'acte. It's the prologue to the whole film is you're going to sit here and you're going to watch this dot get larger, and it's going to be a person. And it was a year after Lawrence of Arabia that did the reverse, where someone comes closer to a static camera in a long take. But I don't think they would have known that at the time. There's no way they could have been ahead of it.
It's such a long opening. It's so long that it's so beautiful, and that's why I have so much more. I think now, like, because I hadn't seen it in forever, and that's why I was like, I'm surprised this holds up for me. Yeah, I was like, oh, we're gonna put it on for Penelope, and then I was like, oh no, this is amazing, and my mom was really into it, and then I rewatched Mary Poppins, and I wasn't as there were moments in it that I thought were really great, but I don't know, it just wasn't that actually felt too small for me.
It's Mary Poppins. I haven't seen it since the Blu-ray came out, so probably about 10 years. But it's stiff. Like that's what I mean,
really, and I don't
sequences
the cartoon. But
individual scenes.
Yeah, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. From my dad got that too. It's so funny. He's got all our classics that we watch for my daughter when she visits.
But that's got the child catcher in it, which traumatizes everybody.
Yeah. I haven't actually rewatched it. I watched some of the scenes. Just remembering the dancing and stuff. But yeah, it is interesting now when you go watch it as an adult. You're like, oh, that's creepy. Like, that's scary. But I guess that's in there for the adults to be able to watch something with their kids without them knowing. I don't know. Kind of like how Shrek has a lot of hidden gems.
Sure. Just throw away the jokes for the that straddles that stuff where there's farting for the kids and, and wordplay for the adults.
Exactly.
There's no... Yeah... Maybe it's because Wise came up as an editor, but the film...
Really? I didn't know that,
Yeah, he cut Citizen Kane.
Wow. Well, I will say the movie never gets to... I never find anything too long. Like, the opening is more... That's different.
That's
just
a conscious
gets you ready
decision.
for it, and it's exciting. But I don't find anything... Even, like, I mean, this Do Re Mi is such a long song... to keep that interesting. I mean, it's the same thing over and over, but
visually he keeps finding business that they can do.
It's beautiful. I'd love to go to Salzburg. I've been to Vienna.
Oh, me too.
But that's Mark's favorite city. He loves it there.
I was a juror on the film festival there in 2008.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we went at Christmas time, which was just very magical with all the markets and everything.
Oh, that would have been nice. I was there in late October. So the weather was perfect.
Yeah.
It was jacket weather, but it was sunny. And we alternated between watching movies in the dark and then coming into the light and just walking outside.
Yeah.
And the architecture and the Sachertorte, which I discovered is the greatest food in all of the world.
The what?
Sachertorte. It's a dark chocolate cake with apricot jelly in the middle of it. It's served with a little bit of unsweetened whipped cream.
I don't know if I had that.
There's a Hotel Sacher, which is the specialty of the house, but everyone makes it.
Maybe I did then. I just don't. I ate so much good stuff there. That,
I mean, it was literally handed to me the day I got there, in a little plastic container with a little bit of whipped cream on it, and on top of it, and it's like, oh, this is basically the equivalent of a Starbucks version of it,
right?
And it was still exquisite. And then we had the real one a few days later. I was there for over a week, and I found out that the thing to do is to just eat a different one every day, just a slice.
Yeah.
And build towards the Hotel Sacher experience.
Okay.
And I did it backwards. I think I had it at the Hotel Sacher like on a second day.
So you had the best first.
Yeah,
and
or
then
second.
It just declined.
And then I kept chasing the high, and it worked because I just kept going. I never lost my interest. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Did you go to Schönbrunn Palace?
We were shown it, but we didn't go in.
It's bananas. That's someone's just summer home.
Yeah.
That's what I found crazy. I was like, it would take you so long to walk from one side to the other. Like, it's just it's cool how the gardens are open, though. Like, people were there for runs and different things like that, which was interesting.
I think we did get to walk around there, if I remember correctly. It felt like, Versailles.
Yeah.
Like, just insanely appointed, beautifully constructed. Yes, now that I think about it, we did walk around it. It was, I was there, I was on a jury with Neil Young from Sunderland, the film critic, not the musician, and he and I bonded over going to see a print of Touch of Evil with German subtitles in the Stadtkino, which is basically a hollowed out, it was a bunker. That
sounds cool.
A bunker under a building that became a movie theater in the 50s or early 60s.
Oh, wow.
And the year that we were there, Vienna was having a salute to the programmer, to the man who founded the cinema and kept it going. And it was basically the reason that there were German subtitles on any films for a while. He was paying for it to bring them in and do them because Germany proper was still sort of under Allied control.
Yeah.
And so he was doing it through Austria. And they were screening, I think it was an 9-day festival, so I think there would have been 2 a day. So they were screening 18 of his finest acquisitions and from a vault. And so we got to watch Touch of Evil projected with German subs, which was so surreal. But in the middle of this beautiful day, we just chose to bury ourselves, like 100 feet below the city to watch a movie with 20 other people in this tiny theater.
Wow.
But that's the contradiction of Vienna to me. It's I think it's just this stunning place, and you spend all your time indoors. You miss the exterior. You don't see all of it.
Yeah, I guess we did a lot of walking, like, around, but it's so grand. I mean, I remember I was like, well, no wonder the poor people were kind of like, like it's just one all or nothing. Like, just such crazy buildings and but so beautiful, great food, really great place. We also did, I think it was Berlin was on that trip too.
I still haven't been.
But yeah, it was a little different. We were there for Christmas time, and that wasn't really Berlin. So there's just an energy there that's very heavy, and I still feel like it's there just from everything that occurred. That it's not really festive in a way. Like, I think it's more better. I think my friends say it's better in the summertime. Because we also went to, like, the Topography of Terror on Christmas Eve, which probably... But you want to go to that stuff. You're there. But it was really... I was like, this is not very festive, but okay.
You choose your moment.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a cool place, too. But yeah, so how many movies do you watch a week?
Me? Oh, I don't know. It used to be more like... It used to be at least 2 a day. Now it's kind of evening out between film and television because we're doing so much with streaming. I watched... Just this last week, I watched all of Hannah... Wow. And then I had to write about Barry and Santa Clarita Diet, so I watched as many of those as were available.
I haven't watched Barry yet. I really want to.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, he's incredible.
It's very funny.
Yeah.
But it's also completely violent and brutal and unflinching about like, he kills people. And
I find comedians sometimes really do make the best dramatic actors.
Yeah.
I think there's so just, too. Like Steve Carell, I think he's unreal. always find that now I can't think of anyone, of course. I say that, I'm like, that's it, that's all I got.
Well, Ryan Gosling,
But-
right? Like, he's naturally very funny, but
Yeah.
you can watch him kind of repress that, and it makes him a more interesting person.
Yeah, I find, because I don't think, it doesn't always go the other way, is what I mean.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Like, very rarely you'll get, I think most of the time, if you're a pretty strong comedic actor, you'll, you know, be able to go the other way. I mean, John Hamm actually is very funny that I would never have thought.
Yeah.
You know, that did go the other way. I think he's very funny.
Yeah, well, he was one of those guys. I was amazed to find this out. He was one of the Largo guys. Like, the Largo at the Coronet is this club that
Okay.
became I guess it's a theater. I mean, it's a live venue.
Yeah.
In Los Angeles, just up the street from the Beverly Center, and there was a coterie of people in the mid-90s who just hung out there and goofed around, and now they all know each other. It's like Amy Mann was part of it, and Paul Thomas
wow.
Anderson, Paul F. Tompkins, Patton Oswalt was involved, and like, it's just people who...
Paul.
Oh, of
worked
course,
with Paul.
right, from the LA
yeah,
Complex.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Such a
I
nice
was going
man.
to tell you, we had this bizarre moment. Kate and I are both kind of weird big fans of Blind Spot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and last week's episode was your flashback.
Oh, okay, yeah, there it was.
Very briefly, and
yeah,
it's just like,
yeah.
oh yeah, she'll be here next week.
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
Martin's so wonderful. He's so supportive of all his... I've never met or seen a more supportive person of the artists that he works with.
Yeah,
because
just
so
the way
much,
that
many of us came back.
Everyone is chugging through Blind Spot. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, how many American network shows dedicate themselves to the overreach of the post 9/11 security state on a weekly basis? And I love that about the show. It's about paranoia and overreaction and
Yeah.
and just, you know, surveillance, and somehow everyone thinks it's a straight drama, and it's just, over the years, it's gotten weirder and weirder.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where now, like, Ennis and Aaron have scenes with somebody else from Young People Fucking. This, like, last 2 weeks ago, they brought in one of the other actors. Like 3/4 of that cast has been in the show.
Oh, yeah. It makes you feel like you're like, oh, you want me to come and do another... It's just a really nice thing. And, you know, because it's a hard industry, and a lot of it is about sometimes who you know and working with people that you like to work with. And I'd like to work with my friends most of the time.
Yeah.
You know what I should have said? I'm seeing that poster now, and I'm like, oh my god, Hot Fuzz. That's like one of my top... I just love that movie
That's a good
so
one.
much.
Johnny Sun did it. He picked.
it.
He did the whole trilogy.
Did he? Oh,
Yeah.
amazing.
Like this time last summer.
And Mark did the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You speak knowingly of this.
Oh, yeah, I know that's his. I was really surprised that he had, because he watches about half an hour, 40 minutes of a movie every morning.
Oh, yeah.
That's like his routine, yeah. So, and I was like, you can't have one favorite movie. But was that...
That's Dexter. He's snoring.
He's snoring. Oh.
Yeah. He was great. And it doesn't have to be a favorite. That's the other thing about the podcast,
Yeah.
right? I've had people bring in stuff that they've just seen and fallen in love with. Somebody brought in, like, the very first episode was Anne Donahue picking American Hustle because she knew I hated it, and that was our pilot. I wanted to try recording an episode with
Yeah.
somebody who I knew could, because I'd never hosted a podcast before, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, Anne will be able to talk me through it, whatever's going on. Like, she's got the energy to keep it
Right.
going. And she said, I want to do American Hustle, but I know you didn't like it. And it's like, that's okay.
That makes it interesting.
Yeah, and
you know?
it was this weird, we're both trying to talk each other into the other position
Yeah.
energy. That almost never happens.
No, I
but
like
was
that too.
fascinating.
I like that with... I think I've had that with I'm trying to think now with things that I've been more on the TV side of things too, just because that's, you know... Did you see Bodyguard?
No. Is it good?
I think I think so.
Yeah.
I love British. I grew up in England. I like British
I was going to
TV.
ask about that. How long?
16 years old when I left.
How did you lose the accent?
I haven't when I go home. I
Really?
think just with work and maybe being having a musical ear, I just kind of pick up on other accents. I think if I moved to Australia right now, I'd probably just get an Australian accent.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. And when I went to St. John's, where I met Mark, that is so similar to, or more similar than other parts of Canada, obviously, to England, and the sense of humor and things like that, more Irish. But I was like, oh, this is like home, like the people there and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's something like British television. I do like that people look real.
Yeah.
I do enjoy, like, it's just, you know, the women look real. It's, I don't know, that I like more. It's not all just like perfect
Aestheticized. Yeah.
looking, which is also fun for certain things. Every, you know, different networks have different, you know, goals. But yeah, Bodyguard I really enjoyed. I think he does a really, really good job.
Well, that's good.
In that.
What did we watch while we were there? We mostly watched panel shows just to get a sense of, because we were, Kate goes back for a month every February, March.
Okay.
She went yeah, it's all a blur. I went out for a week to join her and just basically hang out. She's got brothers there and
Yeah.
spend time with the family. She goes to teach. She teaches knitting, and
Okay.
she's a designer and an author, and she goes on teaching weekends.
Cool.
And so she'll book 4 in the UK because she's got citizenship, and just go and spend
Yeah.
a month and come back. And it's a great excuse for. I think mostly she does it to get away from winter here.
Yeah.
But while we were there, it was just we were watching Brexit fall apart in real time, and it's just been. It felt again today. The 3rd vote was rejected, and May's already said she's going to set the vote up for a 4th one. I don't. No one seemed to think it was going to happen, which I guess is good. But the sense of paralysis and the way that the country just can't get over this argument that they keep having is like it's really bizarre.
I know. The world's a bit.
Yeah.
It's all a bit bananas right now. I'm hoping it's like, when you like tidy up a room and it's just so messy and then it's suddenly just beautifully organized.
Yeah.
That's a very simplistic way of putting it, but I really hope that that's like just what's happening and then it'll all come out,
Yeah.
Maybe I'm too naive.
It
but
would be nice.
That's how that gets me through.
Yeah. I mean, we have Ford and the States has Trump, and it's all like, it just feels like we're in this place. I'm trying to figure out how to work back to The Sound of Music because
Sorry, yes.
No, it's
yes.
not you. No, I have a point. Like, there's a connection from this thing we're just talking about, that The Sound of Music, watching it now is like watching a strangely relevant story about the rise of fascism, right? Like, it's happening all around them.
And your integrity to yourself, like you were saying with Christopher Plummer, like a lot of us feel in fear to have. It's just not safe to have a viewpoint sometimes, even if it's the wrong one. Like I can't, I mean, I have my own viewpoints, but I mean, like for us to work anything out, we have to understand each other to be able to come to anything anyway. And but your integrity to yourself is so important, and that's what I like about Christopher Plummer's in that. He's not like dilly-dallying around it. Like, he rips up that flag when he gets home from his honeymoon.
Yeah.
And then he makes fun of the other guy. And once I really understood the weight of that, like when I learned about World War II and things like that and Hitler, I was like, that's such an admirable quality to be able to have. And it's, you can't always, it's hard to sometimes say what you think now safely, especially and now it's
as
become
a public figure especially, but
yes.
Yeah.
And then on social media it gets tricky because it's out of context.
Yeah.
You only have a certain amount of things that you can put it in, and then people take it, so that's not really safe, and so then people back away from it, and then you lose your integrity because you're like, now I don't even feel like I can communicate.
Yeah.
Well,
there's this, I mean, obviously it's not the argument made in Sound of Music, because Sound of Music is a much more black and white, clear cut.
Yes.
Because, of course, Nazis are the bad guys.
Yeah.
And I remember I interviewed Eli Roth when Inglourious Bastards came out. Mm-hmm. And there was a line in the conversation that made it into print about how, of course you kill Nazis, you don't feel bad. It's an easy enemy in a movie. Mm-hmm. And someone actually wrote in and complained. There was an angry email, or an angry letter to the editor about how demeaning that is to Germans. And all you can think of is, okay, you hold this view, it's been 60 years, maybe it's an abstract thing now, the idea
also,
that,
Nazi doesn't equal German.
Yeah.
It's a very particular type of person.
Exactly. If you're seeing an insult to Nazis as an insult to your heritage, then your heritage is probably the thing you should be questioning.
Yeah, that's not... Yeah, I don't... Yeah, that it's tricky. And that's what's so great. I mean, it's great through social media and stuff, but the problem is now is also people get educated off of a tweet. Yeah. They're like, well, I read blah. And you're like, okay, who wrote it? And you're like, and it becomes your whole basis for how you view the world sometimes. Sure. And it's just like, we need to... Or like, in Sound of Music, you have to do things face to face. Yeah. You have to have the conflict face to face. You can't be as covert, I guess, about it, because you don't have Instagram and Twitter and posting this thing and hidden message, I Am 16 Going on 17 would be a very different conversation in texts. When I did listen to that song, I was a bit like... That's a creepy song. Yeah, when she's like, I don't know what to do, what are the whiskeys that I'm supposed to drink? And I was like, this would not fly now. The communication is not bad. The overall message of the song is not meant to be just those isolated things, but it's like that other song, there's a song... that a guy sings about wives and lovers.
Yes, that's
And
right.
it's like, don't think because you got a ring on your finger, like, you don't have to try anymore, and all these lines, which I actually think it's really funny, but I would never get written today.
It's a song about insecurity. You could sort of play it that way.
Yes, except we have some people complain about that stuff, but then you have all these rap songs that are so degrading to women, but we're like, well, you know, that's in now or whatever. It's a bit like...
Yeah, I don't know where to go with this stuff. I mean, ultimately, like, culturally, it's so far removed from my own experience.
Yeah.
As a middle-aged guy who grew up listening to, you know, the Police and Billy Joel basically were the dominant forces in the early '80s, and Huey Lewis and the News, and that's like pop. Hip hop culture has just come at me from the other side. I only know it through movies mostly, and I know what I like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't say I'm well versed. I'm just...
I don't know what's on the radio anymore. I like feel so out of line. I'm like, who is this? I don't know who this is. It's weird when that transition starts.
Yeah. Kate listens to Radcliffe and McConey out of the UK, so we generally have 6 months ahead on the pop that gets over here, on the songs that make it over here. But
I should order the Now. I used to collect all the Now CDs. I don't know what number they're at now in England.
Those, yeah.
England was always way ahead of the States, numbers wise, and I always liked those just because the second disc was always kind of like not that great. The first disc had the best ones on.
Yeah.
I should just catch up on those.
You want the best anthems albums and the best...
Yeah. Those are great.
Probably have a few of those. Jenny Lewis. Jenny Lewis is great. You should listen to Jenny Lewis.
Okay.
Again, we're so far off topic.
No, sorry.
No,
it's
it's great.
I know.
It's like
I can talk about anything. But yeah.
A cultural exchange.
I know.
But yeah, I would be curious to see a hip hop version of The Sound of Music. I would be up for that.
Yeah.
There's probably ways to... Yeah, other than the live show, it's not something that comes up a lot culturally. Like, it's such a distinctive story. Although I was talking to Chandler Levac the other day because we'd both seen The Aftermath, which is in theaters now with Keira Knightley and Alexander.
I haven't seen it yet. Okay.
It is The Sound of Music without children and without singing.
Oh.
It's about a British woman who arrives to live with her husband, who's a colonel or a lieutenant in the I think he's a colonel in the reconstruction of Hamburg. So she comes to Hamburg to live with him, and he's staying in the house of a German architect who's a former... No, sorry, that's the whole point, is the cowardice of the film, where he is given the out. Alexander Skarsgård plays this architect who lives in the house, and he keeps to himself, and he has a teenage daughter who's attracted to a member of the Dead Enders, of the '88, the Hitler Dead Enders. So that's the Rolf and Liesl thing. And the film isn't brave enough to let this character have been a member of the party. He has a speech where he was like, no, I wasn't even in the party. I refused. I was always... So he has to be the best German because Keira Knightley is going to sleep with him, because that's the trajectory of the film. And it struck me that The Sound of Music 55 years ago is a braver film than this contemporary version of a similar story.
Wow.
Because it's hedging its bets to make everybody likable and to play it out as a, you don't want to complicate things with moral murk. It can't be ambiguous. He couldn't even been, like, he doesn't have to be a Nazi, but if he was a party member, as most Germans were, we kind of learned that.
Yeah.
He has the speech where during the denazification he's brought in and they're quizzing him, like, did you know about the camps? No, I did not. I was horrified. And it just feels like all the steps that have to be cleared, not for him to get his citizenship back and be restored as an upstanding person, but for the movie to make it okay that he can have an affair with Keira Knightley's character. Yeah. Because that's the more important thing. And also the daughter is just pulled into this because she's a rebellious teenager and her mother died in the firebombing of the Allied firebombing of Hamburg, that she gets drawn to the bad boys.
But it's boring when somebody's perfect. Like, it doesn't... Yeah, it's clarity not real.
Is the enemy of drama.
Yeah, and I think that, like, actually, when you were talking about it, reminded me of The Reader.
Right, another really horrible version of that story.
Yeah, but, like, they didn't try and make that any better. They didn't try and make her seem... She just was what she... You know what I mean? You just have to understand where...
But in the end, she's as much a victim of it as everyone, right? They let her off the hook in a weird way.
Yes, in a weird way they do. But I think as a viewer, you're not, like... you know, I think it's when someone's too perfect. That's why it's been cool, I guess, with shows like we have so many more of like the anti-heroes that they're not, you know, or that he's not perfect. The captain is a little mood, like, you know, he treats his kids like, you know, he's a drill sergeant with them, and they're kind of moody and they're not having a good time and that kind of thing. He's not like this perfect man that she goes to the house and falls in love with. And the Baroness is kind of a bit of a, you know, Potts, like she's not, you know, I don't want to call her a bitch.
I like her. She's fire.
I do like her too.
Yeah.
And I actually, she's very, again, they found the humanity. They didn't make her, no one's a caricature of how they are. Because Julie Andrews, even though she's the most, I don't know what the word would be, but she's still very real with it. Like, I believe that person exists, like who she is.
She's a chaotic good, right? Like she's an anarchic force in the house.
Yeah.
More so than the children are. Yeah. Which is great, because the idea of a governess who can't control, like the governess who is more impulsive than the children she's supposed to control, is a great conflict. Although it doesn't give her much of an arc, because she just has to learn to control. But her presence gives the captain his arc, which is what's so great, that he's the one who changes over the course of the film. Yeah. By embracing his inner foolishness, but also his external morality gets directed in the right way. Like he turns it on the Nazis instead of his children, which is exactly what should be going on. Yeah. And we get to watch. It's such a strange proposition. We're going to tell you the story about this family who escaped the Nazis. That's great. On its like, okay, that's a good logline. I'll watch that. But they're going to sing, and they're neurotic, and they're weird, and the hot teenage daughter is probably going to sleep with the hot Nazi. But
I don't think they ever sleep together.
No, but it's certainly, that's the temptation, right? Like it's in front of you.
Yeah.
And Liesl is heavily sexualized by this film.
Yes.
Which, again, in 1963 or 4 when they shot it, in 1965 when they released it, par for the course.
But she's playing a 16... I mean, I don't necessarily agree with it, but playing a 16-year-old... that whole thing, you know, and like, you know, one's like, they never go, they're homeschooled, they don't go out to school to meet boys, so there's this one boy who comes to the house, and she's at that age where it's like, who's this guy who's handsome?
Yes, but his bone structure is immaculate, I must know further things. Yeah.
But then, and then he gets brainwashed, and they didn't really, I would have liked to have seen a little more for her. I mean, that just wasn't the story, so it doesn't contribute, but like,
I think if you remade it now, there'd be more focus. I mean, because that's, you know, that story is something worth pursuing.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And then she's like, no more letters, but I'm getting over it, when she asks when Maria comes back. And she's like, yeah, it's okay. But it's like, man, he's fully, like, gone.
Oh, yeah.
Like...
Ralph was executed at Nuremberg, I'm pretty sure. That's what ends up happening to him. There's, Amma Asante made a film called Where Hands Touch. It was at TIFF last year. About and it's a true-ish story. It's based on circumstances more than actual people, but it's about a biracial teenage girl raised as a good German, like raised to be a proud Nazi basically, and believe in the purity of the fatherland, who falls in love with a young man who's in the Hitler Youth, and it's about both of them becoming disillusioned, and the film doesn't really work. Ultimately, I don't know that you can tell that story now and make it feel like a young adult romance the way they're trying to. You know, a movie about Liesl experiencing that could be really interesting. Yeah. Without the racial aspect, but just as somebody slowly realizing that the world around her is insane. Like the values she's been taught her whole life. Especially with the homeschooling, right? Yeah. Who knows? And again, it gives them the out of being Austrian. Yeah. So there's that. It makes it okay. Yeah. But yeah, there's a darker, crueler movie lurking inside.
It would be cool if someone did that. I don't want to remake The Sound of Music.
Yeah, you couldn't do it head on.
But it'd be cool if someone took a storyline out of it. Like, I always like those, like a spin-off. A spin-off sitcom with Liesl and Rolf. Yeah. Yeah. But no, that would be...
What was the show that didn't make it in the UK? Heil Honey, I'm Home?
Really? Yeah. I don't remember that show.
One episode in the late 80s or early 90s. It was a Hitler sitcom. It did not last.
Wow, yeah.
That was a thing.
That's a thing.
Yeah, you could do... I mean... Well, actually, Christian Petzold sort of does it in Transit, which was also released last year. It's a modern retelling of Casablanca where all the values are still World War II. It's all about visas and transit papers and everything, and they just shot it in modern dress, and it's incredibly jarring.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's what it would be like to have those things happen to you right now, and you can completely imagine it happening somewhere.
Well, Handmaids does all like that.
That's true.
That's really sets up the. I mean, we're a long way from that, but I just, I
hope so.
The feeling of that when they do the flashbacks and stuff to how it was before, and it's just amazing how evil is. People can't really confront it fully, and that's why it gets by, because no one could believe that somebody could be that bad.
Yeah.
So you're like, that's not really what they're doing. No, and then it just happens, and now you're suddenly in this world that because you just didn't want to really be like, no, that is what's happening. Or you're considered like a conspiracy theorist or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But for the fact, and then now it's made evident that it was. It's kind of...
Yeah, it's terrifying in its implacability. It just sort of happens around everyone. I mean, in Handmaids at least you have the one day where it, where the coup happens, where it actually takes place. All the other slow boil ones are just so distressing because, again, like The Sound of Music, it's this bucolic happy land where everybody's running around in lederhosen and having a lovely time, and then there's a Nazi right over there, and now there's a few more, and it's just...
And now I can't say what we can't talk about that, we can't make jokes, we can't like...
The encroaching sense.
Yeah. It's scary. But, I don't know.
But you can sing your way to freedom.
Yeah. I did like how all the songs, though, made sense. I didn't find any of it too, because it's a musical and it's big, like you were saying, but all of them fit in, that they're a natural thing that if it was just a conversation, it would still work.
Yeah.
They are the conversations. They're not just these big numbers with like 50 people on the street dancing with them too. It's like, well, maybe she would sing on her way to this new job where she's nervous, or at least you have your headphones on pumping you up for this new thing. So they all work. They're not just numbers for the sake of numbers. Yeah,
and the songs are plot related.
That's what I mean,
there's no, like happy distraction song or we need the I Want song right here, right now in this point in the film so we understand everything. No, it just keeps... it's Robert Wise being an editor, right? There's a flow.
Yeah.
He instinctively knows what to do.
Yeah, those are all really... Yeah, I like all of those. But the... reminds me of... Oh, I used to be a part of a Facebook group called I Wish My Life Was a Musical.
Okay.
So way back in the day. Because I do love that. That's one thing I guess I love musicals. That there's that moment of... I don't know. I guess it's... Like I was saying, when you listen to your music that pumps you up or makes you feel a certain way. I love music for when I'm working on characters. I find if I find the right playlist, that just really helps me understand them better. Because it just communicates to me very quickly. Compared to reading or watching something, I actually find music the quicker way.
Yeah. What sort of music do you use? I mean,
it depends on the character.
Yeah. How do you tailor it, or do you find it and then build it?
I kind of will read everything of the character and find where they are at emotionally, and then depending on their kind of main arc or what they're going through, I'll find the music. I'll know what just will inspire me, like on my phone, like to do that. Okay. So, yeah, it's kind of a fun. It's always a fun... I don't do it with every character, but if I've got something... Like, I'm working on something right now, so I'll definitely find... Which is about a difficult relationship, so I'll definitely find... That's easy.
Yeah. Did you use anything for Goalie?
Yeah, I did.
Was it period specific? Was it like
it wasn't period specific. That I did do period... For a pilot, I did Paradise Pictures set in the 1940s, and that I went really specific, because all that music's so emotional anyway, so that was really easy. For Goalie, I definitely had things like Coldplay, like like the Scientist song and stuff like that, because their whole relationship was just about something not working, like, trying very hard to stick with the plan, but when somebody's broken, it's just not. And sometimes they are very typical songs, but that's why they, they work.
Sure. Yeah. It's, that sort of does lead us to the closing question on the podcast, which is, if there's anything specifically of The Sound of Music that you have borrowed or used or full-on stolen or absorbed into your own creative DNA, do you reference it in your work? Have you found a reason or a place for it?
I haven't found a place for it, only because I haven't done something of that style. But watching it now and seeing her ability, like which I've talked about, to sell moments that seem too cheesy, like that you're like gonna fall into a cheesy hole.
Mm-hmm.
To see her full commitment to them and the joy she has in doing them is definitely something, especially when you audition for, I guess, sitcoms now would be the like that heightened, the bigger kind of characters, but they're still real people, and finding that and not just getting this idea of like, oh, I gotta just be bigger, like that. I think I definitely have kept in the back of my mind. And then the subtleties of Christopher Plummer, I think he's so wonderful.
Yeah,
and their relationship, and especially now I'm older, I'm playing mothers, which was not, obviously now that's starting because I am one, and that's a very different like having kids on set. Like the thing I'm shooting right now, I have kids, and I have to, and they're older than one I have, and that's an interesting thing too, your relationship with children on set, and how you, even just as an actor to actors, handling kids on set and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it must be weird to have to forge, because I other than a handful of preternaturally gifted young actors, kids are kids.
Yeah.
Right? And so you have to forge a really intimate connection immediately and then be able to turn it off.
Yeah, and make them comfortable, and their parents are there, and also making sure you're like, are you cool? Like, we're going to do the A, B, and C in the scene. I'm going to hold you. We're going to go, and making sure that it's all good, with their parents. And then, and then, I mean, in Goalie, I dealt with a 9-month-old, a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and we had a newborn at one point. And I really think being a mother, there is just a way that you hold kids or grab kids or do things with kids that I think I was glad I had, because you're just not used to it. Like a night, like when they're squiggling everywhere, that it's really changed my work a lot in a cool way like that.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Could you do, like a governess role for this many children at once?
Yeah.
It feels like they'd all need to be holding a rope or something.
I used to teach at Louis Bowmander Acting Studio.
Oh, so you...
And I used to handle a lot of the kids. Like some of the kids were quite young. There were some that couldn't even read, so I'd have to help them learn their lines to go audition, which is very interesting, without making it a line read, so they're still doing the work for them too. Yeah, I love kids and hanging out with kids, especially when they're like in the more communicative stage, like when you can actually have full conversation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I play a governess. I think that'd be really fun.
What about the choreography?
Yeah. I used to dance a lot as a kid.
Yeah. I assume you'd have people for that if you were the Von Trapp governess. If you had that many children to wrangle, there'd be somebody else to help.
Yes, exactly. A nanny.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be really fun. I've always wanted to do a job where I had to train really hard in some way. Either like physically, like learn to fight, or a lot of choreography, or just something that requires a lot of prep. I think that would be... I'd really like to do that, because so much stuff we do is just such a fast turnaround, especially in TV.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Somebody was bragging about... Who was it? Oh, Kristen Ritter on a podcast was talking about directing an episode of Jessica Jones and how proud she was that she did 67 two-camera setups in a day for a fight scene, and it's just like, I would crawl under a rock and hide there until it was all over. I just get to sit and take it all in. I don't actually have to participate in the construction of it, and it just seems like such a nightmare.
Yeah.
Moving that quickly.
Yeah, sometimes it takes the joy out of it a little bit when you don't have... I mean, if, like, how long did Scorsese take to shoot Boardwalk Empire? Because he was so used to...
Oh, that's right.
I think it was like 8 weeks or something for like the first episode.
Pilot. Yeah, he treated it like a feature.
Yeah, like 2 pages a day, like that's what we're doing. But then I would find that maybe too slow, because I'm so used to working so fast. I don't know how I would find if I was like, this isn't a long scene, like, unless you're going to do it so many different ways. I don't know. I
guess it'd be like Game of Thrones, where they just don't know if they'll use you on the day, but you have to be 50 feet away from the set at all times.
Crazy. Yeah, it's hard. People don't realize there are things behind it. Is hard. It is hard work.
Oh, yeah.
All the hurry up and wait, and then just not working at all.
Or someone could, charge at you with a helicopter.
Yeah, exactly.
Not anymore, thankfully.
Yeah, they wouldn't be allowed to do that now.
My thanks to Georgina Reilly, who you can see in Adriana Magg's powerful sports biography Goalie, opposite her real-life husband Mark O'Brien this Friday, June 7th, on iTunes Canada. You can also see Georgina and Mark together in the new series City on a Hill, premiering Sunday, June 16th at 9 p.m. on Showtime in the US and Crave in Canada. Thanks also to Cynthia Amsden. She knows what she did. You can find Georgina on Twitter at Georgina Reilly, all one word, and you can find The Sound of Music on Blu-ray and DVD in a special edition from 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment. It's also available on iTunes and Google Play. And, feel free to check out Mark and Adriana's Semcasts on The Game and The Adventures of Faustus Bidgood, respectively. You can grab them wherever you found this episode. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Norm Wilner and elsewhere on the internet at nowtoronto.com. You can also find this podcast on Twitter at Semcast, S-E-M-Cast, and on the web at someoneelsesmovie.com. If you feel like leaving a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or wherever you enjoy the show, that would be greatly appreciated. Every little bit helps. It truly does. Thanks for your support, and thanks for listening.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.